Day 6, gratitude. Today I'm grateful for my Fridays. It's been a couple weeks. A buddy of mine who I always work out with on Friday, he was traveling back now, and I always look forward to Fridays, working out with him, catching up, all that good stuff. Really kind of giddy excited about it. Like a kid when you used to have pizza Fridays in school. It's always a good time, man, and it's having a friend who you can be serious with, honest with, they can return that to you, joke with, compete with, want to beat, want to collaborate with, want to make better, get better by being around. It's a special thing. I think if you don't have a friend like that, or even a group like that, or an environment like that, you owe it to yourself to dig into that one and find something like that and create something like that for yourself. So really cool. The workout today was 4-time 150-foot handstand walk, 40 shoulder press at 75 pounds, 800-meter run. We substituted a 2,500-meter Echo bike instead of the run, which was cool. I haven't been on the Echo bike in a while, and really enjoyed that. Also just had some, so I like that workout, just hung out after. I always like seeing the classes with really high skill movement, handstand walk. I like seeing where people are at, how they're progressing, how they handle it. Always be amazing to me how many adults just, are able to now progress through that skill as getting upside down. So it's a pretty amazing skill. I think a lot of CrossFit athletes, the quote unquote, average athlete in the gym, pretty amazing if they can just do that kind of stuff. I think so, but that's why I coach it. Then I got to spend a little time reviewing somebody's class, giving them some feedback, which was really fun. I don't feel like I give myself enough maybe I haven't earned it, enough opportunity to share feedback and insight that I've picked up along the way with other people. I feel like wasting some of that good stuff, maybe not passing it on. And anyway, and then had a lot of awesome time outside today. Went on a really cool where I work. And then where the gym is, there's this little creek and a lot of outdoor space, common area. I don't know what they call it out here in Colorado. Just outdoor space that people are outdooring in. And just got to watch the dogs kind of explore. They were really well behaved today, which was super cool. Super cool. They're getting better there. Just the consistency works, which was fun. And then I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to chat about today. I had a couple ideas. I still have this bummed out versus burned out topic, but like I said, I think that needs a little bit more digging in. And then I stumbled across this little notes that I had in my iNotes on the computer. It's called Thoughts, Quotes, and Mantras. And it looks like, so far as I'm reading through, it's just a collection of maybe quotes I've heard, other people have shared with me that I really liked. And there's a bunch of them on here that are really cool. One I've already talked about, the Michael Dalton quote, if your 12-year-old self was looking into the future, what would he say? What would he think about his life? Talked about that one. And, I hope he looks at it and says, oh, that life is filled with lots of awesome quests and side quests. There's a couple on here that I also really like. There's that I'd love to probably spend more time talking about. One of my favorites right at the top is you can always learn from an experience that is not your own. I don't know who I heard that from. I want to say I was talking about that with Dan Bailey. Buddy of mine, met through competing in CrossFit. I haven't talked to him in a while. Probably owe him a call for sure. But man, that's a nice phrase. You can always learn from an experience that is not your own. I feel like there's just not enough time in the day to gobble up all those experiences. What cool ones on here? Get to know someone one sentence at a time. Oh, that was a really good one. Maybe he said that one. It's one of those two that he said. I really like that one. Get to know someone one sentence at a time. Like you meet somebody and you make so many judgments off a single sentence. Then I saw this one on here. This was a hefty one to think through. This is from fellow I had the pleasure of working with a handful of times throughout my time in CrossFit. Incredible videographer, producer, director, Jay Vera. Too much purpose not enough value creates a crisis of meaning. 10 minutes ain't enough time to unpack all that. We'll get there. I like that one. And then, we talked about this, I think, recently. Kind of what is the junk food for your brain? I think Cassandra and I talked about this a long time ago. What is the mental and emotional, psychological equivalent of something like chronic inflammation or common cold for those things? We talked about, is it fear-based thinking? Is it expectation, unrealistic expectation? A lot of cool thoughts in that, which it was neat to stumble on those. Always fun to take a little trip down memory lane on those kinds of things. And then one that I did want to talk about was just fundamentals always give you something to fall back on. Kind of talking about various things today. Like I said, I got to watch one of the other coaches at Mafia coach a class and gave him some feedback. And the more I watch coaches, and I think fundamentally coaching is a pretty straightforward thing. Coaching group classes is a pretty straightforward thing, but there's a lot of complexity in it. And if you want to be like really great at it, I think one of the things that I see most people falter on is the fact that they don't have solid fundamentals. And we hear this a ton, I think, from all like the self-help world, is how, important the fundamentals are, the basics, what is like the 1% thing you can do to get better, blah, blah, blah. But when I think about fundamentals always giving us something to fall back on, I think about it as if you have those fundamentals committed to memory, they're sort of like involuntary, actions. Everything else gets easier because you don't have to worry about those things. We've talked about this for years. We railed on this when I used to coach the level 1 seminars, like level 2 seminars. If you don't know the progressions for a movement, or don't even have to have CrossFit's progressions. If you don't have a progression that you've, tested out and seen success with, and you're always like scrambling to remember that stuff, it's hard for everything else to come out. And I think that's important because, I think when it comes to group class coaching, any sort of teaching in general, in some way you're trying to curate an experience for people. Yes, they need to get better. Yes, they need to learn. Yes, each of them has an individual goal they want to accomplish. But, those elements that seem kind of non-tangible are just done so much better when you're not groping around blindly for the fundamentals that you forgot or didn't get to commit to memory or didn't study. And there have been so many other times I've run into people who I've been so impressed with in their execution of tasks, and I've talked to them about how they do it and what do they practice, and it is amazing to me, one, either how innate the fundamentals are for them, they almost don't even notice it, or two, they talk about exactly that and how they are just trying to recite the fundamentals over and over and over and over and over again. And I do think that's why, sometimes life is just way more exciting when it's full of surprises and, serendipity, and you don't know what the hell's going to come next. I like it like that. But at the same time, I do think you end up living a higher quality of life when you even have some fundamentals of your daily life. Like there are just some boxes that if you check them regularly, that establish like your way of navigating your day. There are just some fundamentals to that where if you pay attention and you master those and you get them done, man, the rest of life just gets so much better. I think this is what people are talking about when they say things like, you got to have your own house in order before you can go help somebody else clean up theirs, or, you got to have your shit together before you can go do this next big thing. And it really is true. I was kind of thinking about where I want the rest of this year to go for me and things I want to be able to do. And, so much of that just starts with getting some of our life fundamentals down. The timing, cadence of our day, some of just like the little repeating tasks we have to do. I don't know. I think about this one every once in a while. What are the fundamentals of my daily life? And have I mastered those pieces? What ones am I missing? What ones do I not pay attention to? And again, I've talked about this before, the busy versus distracted concept. And I always know I'm off the fundamentals when I feel a little rushed and discombobulated. And, that goes back to, like, for me, pack a bag nightly, or, organize that stuff. Every night that I don't do it, I wake up in the morning, I forget something when I head into the office or head into the gym or heading somewhere. It's crazy how often that happens. Or I'll wake up in the morning and I'll see a couple things that I left out, and I'll vividly remember going to bed thinking, I'll just wait to do that tomorrow. And it's, you spend the 5 extra minutes at night locking up those fundamentals for your life, and the rest of the next day goes so much damn better. Maybe for some of you it's a routine, but fundamentals always give you something to fall back on. So know what they are, lock those things in, and get your gratitude in today, and we'll see you tomorrow.